All right, welcome back to the channel. So, wow, Canelo Alvarez refused 12-week Vada testing for the Caleb Plant fight, and that's why the first negotiation broke down. Not a big surprise if you're really looking what's going on with Canelo, but let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back, man. So we're back talking about Canelo Alvarez and an unpleasant subject in boxing, which is performance-enhancing drugs. There's a big fight coming up between Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant, and the word is on the street, came out in several different reports, that one of the reasons that there was difficulty in making the fight was that Canelo Alvarez did not want to have full 12-week Vada testing for performance-enhancing drugs. If this is true, it really is a big indictment on Canelo Alvarez, and also, man, just boxing in general. Because one thing that you should know for sure, at least, maybe I'm an old school dude, that when I see a fight, I want to make sure, man, that the guys are actually having a fair fight. And with this, this type of rumor being out there about Canelo Alvarez, it's not quite as bad as him actually testing positive. But since he already tested positive, it really does add fuel to the fire, as far as the speculation about what this guy is on. There's a lot of people, that consider Canelo Alvarez to be the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I, for a long time, considered him to be the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I think that he actually is an exceptional fighter, very, very well skilled, very, very skilled. But I just cannot give that man that recognition doing things like this. I would think somebody in Canelo Alvarez's position, if having tested positive in the past, and if he was actually clean, would be looking more for this stuff so that he could actually have as rigorous a test as he possibly can, to clear his name and make sure that everybody knows that everything is up on the up and up, man. But unfortunately, that's not the situation. But amazingly, man, even in the situation that Canelo Alvarez is in, and that what the rest of the stuff that about the negotiations, that's what really strikes me as strange. Like it struck me as strange that they couldn't work a deal, because it seemed like it should just be a foregone conclusion that they would get that fight done. Canelo Alvarez, is for undisputed, right? The WBA, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO belt are all on the line. It's a winnable fight for Canelo Alvarez. Like for instance, say that I think Caleb Plant has, he has a chance to win in a fight. I think it's a good fight. I'm not going to underestimate an undefeated Caleb Plant, but I mean, I'm not blind. I understand that Canelo Alvarez is a terrific fighter, and the Caleb Plant is unproven, and has not fought at that level before. So when they didn't make the fight, I was like having all these hard times with the negotiations. I'm like, what in the world is this? They say he was offered $40 million. They like $40 million guaranteed, right? Not like a package that may result in him getting, $40 million. I mean, $40 million guaranteed. And he got, according to Caleb Plant, he also got the Lions. I think he got all of the Mexican television rights, like all of the money for the fight as where it was being aired in Mexico. And then he got the lion's share of the pay-per-view for the United States. He also got a lion's share of the gate. So it's pretty much like Caleb Plant and the PBC were, clearly acknowledging, who the A side was in the negotiation, and let Canelo have everything that he had. But so I was like, man, what in the world could this be? There was rumors that, that the reason that the fight had, that they weren't able to negotiate it was because the PBC was insisting that there was more than one, that there be more than one fight, associated with it, where they wanted to have, Canelo fight, Jamal Charlo or David Benavidez after he fought Caleb Plant, right? But that was something that was vehemently denied by the PBC. And they were like, no, they understood that it was the Canelo Alvarez is going to go on a fight by fight basis, and it was fine with them. And honestly, man, I don't see why it wouldn't be fine with them to be in that type of situation with Canelo Alvarez. It's not like there's only a certain amount of people that are going to be competing for, Canelo Alvarez fights. Top Rank, I don't really think is in a position and don't really have the fighters for Canelo Alvarez to fight. DAZN is really winding down their operations in the United States, right? And they obviously, he didn't want to fight Gennady Golovkin, the people that he had there, right? And he actually had said at a certain point in time he only had 2 fights left with DAZN. So I was, and it seemed like he was bragging about, or at least rubbing it in the face of Eddie Hearn, that was the situation. So I was like, what is all this about? But now this makes perfect sense. And it makes perfect sense, especially, along with what Caleb Plant was saying in the press conference, where he was just really on Canelo Alvarez, calling him a drug cheat, saying, yeah, I know it. Yeah, you can say what you want, but I know you're a drug cheat and this and that and the other thing. And he kind of flew off the handle on him, man. Because so obviously drug testing was a big concern for Caleb Plant. And since my understanding is that this information is coming out of the Plant camp, that was what they were really pushing for and trying to get, Canelo Alvarez to agree to. Right now, I can't tell you for certain whether or not I'm sure that there is drug testing for the fight, but I think the issue was whether or not it was a full 12 weeks, right? Because that's like 3 months of constant drug testing, right? Versus 8 weeks, right? Like when you're doing it, in camp. And as you know, what happened with Oscar Valdez, that time span matters because you can be in camp if you have 12 weeks. That once you say 12 weeks, that means you're in competition. So some of the ways and the way that that is rumored that Canelo Alvarez was the use of Clenbuterol when he tested positive before. If in order for him to use that and do other things, they would have to microdose, and they would have to do that as close to the fight as they possibly could without it being in competition, right? So Oscar Valdez, the reason why he was allowed to fight, according to the WBC, according to the local sanctioning body that let him do it, was because of what he was taking was out of competition, right? So if Canelo Alvarez shortens the amount of camp that you have, then that gives him more time to use those substances and have them be deemed out of competition, right? So, for me, this is, it's honestly, it's really not shocking at all. It's more of a validation about Canelo Alvarez because, again, like I said, the guy is already tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. So once a guy does that, and he never gets any major penalty as a result of it. And a matter of fact, people actually like come to his defense and treat him like he was done wrong. Like when Canelo Alvarez tested positive, the WBC, man, they went at it like there was something wrong with the test, and what a shame it was for the test, right, to have caught Canelo because of what a great guy Canelo Alvarez is. So, there was no discouragement for him doing that, and also, with the amount of money he's making, jumping weight classes and all that, the money, there's definitely a money, incentive for him to do it because, he's not that big a guy, man. He's, like stature wise, height wise and all that. He looks like he's about 5'6", 5'7". And, when he did a face-to-face with Floyd Mayweather Jr., he was bigger than Floyd, like his chest and arms and all that were bigger, but height wise and all that, he's about the same size. So, I think it's just a shame. And it's something that is really going to follow Canelo Alvarez, right? It's also a shame for Caleb Plant if that's the case, right? Because, at this point, it's almost a foregone conclusion that he's going to get in there juicing. So Caleb Plant is really going to have to do something extra to really set himself, and to beat Canelo Alvarez, man. Because Canelo Alvarez is tough enough to beat just off of his boxing skills and all of that. But to have him, taking advantage of this other stuff is, just going to make it all the harder. But anyway, it is what it is. That's my take on the circumstance. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.